Today is January 20th, 2020. My name is Sora Kim, and I'm here with Miss Nami McCown
Mm-hmm.
for
McCown.
McCown for an interview for the Houston Asian American Archive. First of all, I just wanted to ask a little bit about your background and how it was like just growing up in South Korea.
Oh, okay. My background, I was born and raised in Korea. I was just little over 1 year old, right before Korean War, because 1949 I was born, and Korean War was starting in 1950. So I was just about 1 year old, and uh, my family moved from the capital city to southern province of Korea, and which many Koreans did at that time. So I spent most of my childhood southern part of Korea, finishing elementary and school, and my family moved back to capital city, and I went to Boseong Girls High School. Then after that, and I graduated from Yonsei University, major in classical music. And after that, and during even school years, and I was very active, the college student, and I've been always active, and in fact, I consider myself very what do you call it? I wasn't typical Korean girl, and after graduation, that I got a job in a big corporation and working few years, and then moved to U.S. Pursuing my dream to be an opera singer. And then didn't work it out, and I moved to Houston and working in corporate world for a while. And then I met my husband in Houston at workplace, and I got married and having baby, and then my son was extremely gifted. So he was more than gifted in many ways. It was very demanding, and so I couldn't continue work and pursuing my dreams, but rather I set aside everything and I raised my son. He was accomplished classical pianist and tennis player, and now with all the wonderful education, he practices his law right now, and married and have one little boy, and they are expecting another little boy, and here I am.
That's so amazing.
That's my
wow.
short part of my background.
Okay.
And also, in the meantime, as you can see, I was married to a Caucasian American, and he was a bank executive in this town. And I was very much involved in all the social events and different organizations. I was very, very active in all areas. And so basically, and that's my short background. Yes.
Okay, wow. Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to ask some specific questions about your childhood. Just if you have any special memory that you really remember, or something that really shaped you into who you are today.
Yeah. Right. So, even though I was growing up and during war, and it was very family oriented and happy environment, and because even though the Korean War was going on, and the southern part of Korea was very protected by people and my grandparents and my uncles, aunts, and all the families was together. So I don't remember very harsh time in that during Korean War. Many people remember, but rather loving and sharing. Everything was very much, supporting each other. So that was my good memory, childhood. And then school year, I was very active. Even elementary to middle school, that I found myself that God-given talent, this singing voice.
Right.
So everywhere I go and I sing for the people and sing for the neighbors, sing for the family members. I mean, they call it born to be a performer, natural performer. So I have a very happy memories, and in fact, all my relatives and my mom always say, "Nami is most popularist girl," because of that. In fact, one particular memory that when I was in middle school, even elementary school, but middle school, and we trying to learn in the music class. Some American folk songs, right? And then I can catch the English right away, and then singing in all the words, memorize right away. And then teacher asked me, "Nami, you stand up and would you sing?" And then he was accompany, piano. Then I singing this American folk song, then all the class, mates are amazed by, and teacher are same way. So from that point, teacher suggests to my parents, "Nami has a great singing voice. She should, pursue and taking lessons." But those days, right after Korean War and the economic situation, and no parents, pay attention to little girl, singing voice and pursuing become an opera singer. You know what I mean? So this goes by, but then family moved back to capital city, and then when I get into high school. And that's how I really studying, taking classical singing lesson, and then eventually I ended up and major in voice and performing, major in Yonsei University. So if you ask me my childhood, I only have how popular I was, how popular everywhere I go, and then I performing for everybody, and then how I have, by the way, 3 older sisters.
Oh, okay.
I am youngest girl for my parents, and I have one younger brother. So I was in a way very spoiled little girl, and demand for all the things I would like to do, and I would like to have it, and so on. So I grew up in very happy environment, and I was very happy, energetic little girl I was. Yeah.
Okay, next I just wanted to ask you, so after going to Yonsei, you came to the United States, and how that transition was like how it was as a foreign immigrant, coming to America. Just what your experience was.
Well, so after Yonsei University, that during even school years, I was very active in all areas. And even during school days, in my generation, it's very rare, but I pursuing in a way that I get involved with like fashion shows, and then a designer at that time in Gangnam, and this person asked me to put on, his design, and I was proud to do and love to do, and not for just money, but it just for my,
Right.
that was my part of another interest. So I did it like modelings and explore myself to the other areas. And then I worked Sod at the time, so the largest steel corporation in the world, and that I work for the chairman of the board as one among the secretary or staff, and I worked for a couple of years. It was by accident. In that, my job was by accident because during my junior year, I was preparing for my graduation the recital. But then at that time, between Japan and Korea was, as you know, didn't have a normal relationship at that time. But then Korean government was trying to reach out to Japanese government, trying to normalize our relationship. Then university students was uprising because against the government's plan to normalize relationship. So it was a very difficult time. And every day we go to school, demonstration after demonstration, and so school has been closed for a while because too many people getting hurt and dying and all that. So I was in a way away from school for a while. In the meantime, my older sister, after her graduation from law school, she was working for the chairman of the board in Pohang Steel and Iron Corporation, and that chairman later became nation's prime minister. So anyway, my sister was working in their office, and then she was getting married. So at the wedding, I was singing for my sister's wedding, and then chairman's wife was in the guest in my sister's wedding, and she saw Miss Ha, the Sue's sister was singing, and she told her husband, because at that time they was accepting application, they looking for another secretary replacement for my sister. So chairman's wife suggested to her husband that, younger sister is beautiful and singing at the wedding, and we should ask her to come to work for your office, So I got the job by accident. I didn't even apply for it. I didn't put it was a totally different field, right? But I catching up right away, and at that time, Pohang Steel was just beginning of this adapting the new technology from German company and all that. So lot of VIPs coming to Korea visiting. But at the time, my English was pretty good, and so I was very well fit in that job right away. So I already been big stage in a way. I wasn't really shallow little young lady just graduated from the university and coming in this country. You know what I mean? So I came here. I come to USA with big dream, and in a way, but then 1979, 77 at the time wasn't really easy for young lady to pursue, dream, especially in opera world, because my mom was against. As you know, Korean culture, young lady get a nice education, getting married to the doctor or a lawyer, or the engineer or the banker, settle down, having baby, and having become a housewife.
Yeah.
That is our traditional way of living, right? So my mom didn't expect me to come to America all by myself and do that, pursuing my dream, but it was very hard. So I briefly trying to do that, but it wasn't really, new world. And I look back, I was very brave young lady, and I appreciate myself and proud of myself. I still amazed by myself, but if you ask me, let me go back to the question: how was at first time when I came in?
Right.
What condition I was in? Yeah, that is it. Yeah, that's. But I wasn't really shocked and kind of big and new and all that. But I was already in a way. Wasn't from school to coming here. I was already in big corporate world. So I had some experience of how to dealing with people, big and little and all that. So that couple of years working at big corporation was very helpful.
Okay. Wow, that's so amazing that you moved, like you did all that on your own.
Oh, yes. I did it by myself. Yeah.
Next, I wanted to ask, well, because I've grown up outside of the Houston area and I came there for the first time being a student, and I noticed that the Korean community isn't as big, and just what you think the Korean or the Korean American community is like in Houston, or like if it's changed through the years?
Oh, yes. When I came here, 1979, actually, the Korean community was bigger than any other community, Asian community in Houston. And the reason over the years been changed because after Vietnam War, the Vietnamese refugees allowed to come into Houston. It was a large number of Vietnamese refugees came into this city, and they spreading out over the years. So, in my memory, that 1979, 1980, in those days, Korean community was bigger, and Korean population was very large. And then another thing was that from any other Asian community, Koreatown was established in Long Point area, Spring Branch, the first, and also the Spring Branch was well known best school district because our Korean community. Koreans are the one developed that because, as you know, we Koreans emphasizing in education. So these Korean parents are looking for the best public school district, and they all moving into Memorial area, and they buying house, and they energizing the school system, and that's how Spring Branch was really sprouting by Korean community. Yeah, and then eventually Chinese, like I said, Vietnamese population moving in. Then later, as you know, at the time, mainland Chinese not able to come into the USA, unless very special, circumstances. So Korean community was bigger than any other Asian community, I remember. Yes, that's one of the reasons the Vietnamese, refugees population was sprouting over the years. Yes. Then eventually Koreans move out from the Houston. They are more to go to New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco or a bigger city. They consider like a so at the time, Korean population was divided by two. So like one group of people very highly educated, very professionals, and then another population is hardly no education, but just the hard labor people. Like grocery owners and the minor, service people. Yeah. That was the Korean in Houston at that time. Yes.
Right. Okay. And then, do you have any personal memories in Houston, or like on like Rice campus, or just things that are like close to you? That do you have any like personal memories that you have as in Houston that you'd like to talk about?
Personal memory, well, biggest thing in my life is that I met my husband in Houston. So that's how my happy life started here. And I met my husband workplace. I was working at Daewoo International Corporation in Houston branch office, and that's how I came because of my job opportunity. And I met my husband in workplace at Greenway Plaza, Coastal Tower, very modern building. When I came here in first time in Houston from New York, I thought, too spacious. Everything is too open and too wide, just like a wilderness, almost. There is not many modern building like these days, and there is hardly any traffic. I mean, even highway 610 and 59, there is almost like a 4-lane highway, and it was very different than New York, and but somehow very laid back and just peaceful. Just no stress or anything. So I loved it, but somehow my heart was always in New York. So this could be a temporary. I coming into the Houston maybe a temporary, but I will check it out because at that time my family friend contacted me. If you are not happy, if you want to move to Houston, we have a job for you. So I actually came to, find out. But then I loved it because I was singing at the church and I was stay with one of our church ministers' home as a single girl, and then all that, safeness compared with in New York. So I was very much, and also my mother was very comfortable and happy to hear, that I moved to this kind of compare with New York, little settling new city, and was close to my family friends, and at the time, so I started working, and then I met my husband. Same working place. He was the bank executive, and I was in the upstairs 17th floor. He was in the Coastal Tower building, and when I saw him, I thought he was the most handsomest man I ever saw in my life. And my heart was pumping so fast. And I told myself, I want to marry this man someday. Nobody even, I mean, I haven't even talked to him, but I mean, that was, my idea. So when I talked to my coworker, Korean lady, I consider she was my senior, and I called Catherine, 언니, and I told her, Catherine, 언니, I saw the most handsomest man in downstairs bank, and I don't know who he is. He's married or not, but I think I'm gonna marry him someday. And she thought, Catherine thought I was crazy. Nami, you are crazy. Oh, no, you're not gonna do that. Your mom will kill you. In my generation, the mixed marriage is not even acceptable, and it was very forbidden, and especially in a way by the culture. The young lady married to American man was not a desirable thing to any family.
Right.
So at the time, in my generation, right now it's not a issue or not a big deal. But at that time, so my coworker telling me right away, it's impossible dream. So I said, oh yeah, but I will do it. I will do it. So I pursue my dream myself, and I make myself to get there in a way. It's a craziness. Anybody hear my love story will say, wow, it's like a movie script. So anyway, I over the months and years, I trying to pick him, and in a way I trying to find a situation that I can even speak to him, because my heart was so in trouble. But somehow it's a long story. I cannot do it at all with you today. But it takes about 2 years, and finally time come, and I had a chance to talk to him, and he had a chance to learn about me. So we kind of learn about each other, and later find out he was passionate in classical music. So that was the main reason. And he was fascinating about myself, and we eventually go to the Eastern Symphonies and all that. Takes 2 years. Then one day he asked me to marry. And I was, of course, I didn't tell him. It was that was my ultimate, dream. But anyway, 1982, I got married, and then 2 years later, that my son was, born, and I lived a wonderful life, and all the things I did in this city with my husband and raising my son, Sora, I do not have any of negativeness. In fact, I spent more years in this country, in this city, than my own country. And I am very, very grateful to America. And I love this country. This country gave me a wonderful life with my husband. And my husband's legacy, and the legacy is so greater than that I ever can dream. And my son, just so anybody asking me, being a Korean American in America or Houston, how difficult was? I didn't ever had a difficult time, or people look down, or that I feel like discriminated, because of my background. In fact, more people embrace me, more people fascinating about me and asking my culture, and they always ask me, trying to learn about my culture and what do you eat, how do you stay so healthy and fit and all that. So I've been always impressed and loved by Americans. In fact, all nationalities. So when people ask me, I don't have anything to say bad things about being Houston as Korean American, Sora. Yeah. That's my life, a story. And I never been, I wish to go back to Korea. Oh, people are so, judgmental. No, I got more judged by my own nationality. More Koreans was judging me because I married to American. But America embraced me. America gave me wonderful life, Sora. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you had such a wonderful experience here. It sounds very amazing. I guess I'm curious how, because you were raising kids, if you kept any special Korean traditions. I know because we have special holidays, maybe like Chuseok or New things like that. If you kept anything special.
Yeah. Yes. Chuseok and Seollal, New Year's, my memories are always beautiful because my mom was very particular in keeping in traditional things, and from the cooking to the hanbok. And so my early years that my mother have 4 daughters and 1 son, and she loved to, especially the Seollal, New Year's Day, she will give us beautiful new hanbok, silk hanbok, colorful hanbok, all 4 girls wearing it. So I was always looking forward to then, Sora, that we go out, bow to the elderly, then we collecting the money, and then go after another house and, uncles, aunts, and all the, neighbors. Those beautiful memories you cannot take away, and precious memories. And then end of the day, who collecting the most money? And I always collecting the most money. I always, most popular girl, even with all the relatives. You know why? Because I want to sing. So I bow and go around next house, bow and with hanbok, and then if I sing, can you give me more money? I always like so end of the day, I was always collecting the most money and most popular. So all my sisters always, why Nami has to be always popular like that,
Yeah.
So I had a wonderful memories, all those, traditional Seollal, and also, of course, that all of those particular, the traditional Korean food, tteokguk and Seollal morning, and all the endless, beautiful memories. Yeah, right. All the delicacy, we eating, Seollal and Chuseok and all those traditional our holidays.
Yes.
Oh, just endless. Time is not even enough, those wonderful memories that I have. Yeah. But in fact, for a while, I away from Korean traditional things because my husband was Caucasian, and my life was so much involved in American way. The reason was that my husband is Caucasian, and he was a well-to-do individual in this city. And if I involve with Korean people, um, he doesn't speak Korean. It's not fair. Not many Koreans, Korean community, they speak English when we get together, right? So I just push them away in a way, and I didn't go to alumni, function and things like that. And over the years, and so I was pretty much Americanized person. And even though I am Korean American, I was almost American, and away from all those traditional things, because my husband doesn't speak Korean. It's not fair for him to go other functions that I must go, my Yonsei University alumni meetings, things like that.
Right.
And he should be in the monkey in the Jew. I didn't feel like that would be very disrespectful to him, and I do not wish it to attending by myself. We were just like this. My husband and I was like this until his death. It was like this, and so my life in Houston was wonderful, but personally I share my Korean traditional dishes and all other stuff with American friends, and in social I always share with my homeland, tradition things, which I'm very proud, and also my husband was very supportive in that sense. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I know it's really fun to share cultures. When both sides are very accepting.
Especially food.
Yes,
my Korean American friends are just loving it, and my husband was really love and Korean food. Every time my mother visiting us, he couldn't have enough, and so appreciative, and he was very conservative American. Most of the Americans are very outgoing and that, but somehow I fall in love with him because his the conservative lifestyle, and also his passion for classical music. And those things I was very much attractive to him, So he was appreciate so much of Korean culture, the conservativeness and family oriented, lifestyle and all that. So we were just for a perfect, and we were just for absolutely perfect for each other. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds very lovely.
And my mom even cannot communicate with my husband, but until her death, 2011, my mother, 2013 wasn't it? Until her passing, in fact, she has 4 son-in-laws, but one, she cannot communicate 100%. My husband was her favorite son-in-law of all time. Can you believe it? I mean, they love each other so much, respect for each other so much. It was unbelievable. It was a lovely relationship, and that my husband had for my mother, and my mother same way. Yeah, and in fact, my mother always say, he is better than even Korean son-in-laws, any Korean son-in-laws, because he was very respectful and understanding and caring and not a judgmental. As you know, Korean men are very judgmental, So in a sense, my mom had a great respect for my husband, and vice versa. So yeah, a lovely relationship. Yes, until her death. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I think next we're going to transition to some COVID related questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to ask how
Mhm.
COVID just in general has affected your life personally, and if you think like you had a different perspective being like Korean American, or anything you would like to say on that?
Yeah. Let me see. COVID. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, COVID. There is two things that I would like to address
Mm-hmm.
that has been hard for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my case is nothing but turn out to be a wonderful way because my son, my son and his wife had this 1 year old, 1 year old. He just turned. He was born in 2018. 2018. What? 2018 November.
Mm-hmm.
So last year he was like almost like 1 year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so beginning of 3 months, mom was stay home, and 2018, Connor was born November 23rd. Then 2019, I was mom was staying home for 3 months, taking care of Connor, and I was visiting on and off, and
Mm-hmm.
you can imagine my son is only one, or only son for me and my
Mm-hmm.
husband, and so I was dying to, taking care of my grandbaby. But I am very still active individual in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
My personal life, my going to club and exercise and dancing every day almost, and my social life. So that I am very active with my age. I don't even consider I am a senior, citizen. I mean, what is a senior citizen, and why they level senior citizen? I still have my youth, and I just walk every day around 4 miles and go exercise and visiting with friends and eating well, sleep well. I don't even go to see doctor regularly because I don't have any problem, which I am so proud of. All my life I am very hyper lady, and I'm still hyper old lady. And I cannot settle down. In fact, my only 36-year-old young son is always, "Mom, calm down," because I'm so get exciting easily, and I get so hyper, and I'm just full of life, So when Connor was born, 2018 November, just the whole world, is in my hand, and I'm trying to taking care of it. But my daughter-in-law stay home for 3 months, and so I go on and off and did that. But later, after 3 months, she go back to work, and I committed to taking care of my grandbaby full time. I just set aside everything. That's me. I set aside everything, social life, my everything, you name it, every single activity. I stop, and then I care for my grandbaby. Did that, and then this COVID popping up,
Mm-hmm.
and it was hard for many people.
Mm-hmm.
But then I feel like it was a blessing for me because I kept in, and I do because they already thinking about sending me to school and hiring, part-time nanny and this and but that in a way, these things just fall on my lap, and Connor comes here every single day and spend whole day with me. I feed him and put him in the nap and play with him, go to the park and all that. So it was a blessing for me in a way, Sora.
Yeah.
So, and then here is the thing. Having a grandson was a blessing for me, but it's many, heartbreaking under the circumstances, right? But if you ask me, for my personal, it was hard. People cannot, and my grandson's supposed to go to, daycare and play a couple of days with his age groups, but it's stopping. But for me, it wasn't hard for me at all. And I consider it was a blessing for me. And I enjoy my grandbaby every day. Otherwise, wouldn't allow, to do that. So, but then, you have to keep positive attitude is a single important thing. No matter what circumstances we are in, Sura, this is the thing. It's life. When you reach my age, you will realize. And also growing up in Korea during the Korean War, I was just a baby, and then so much chaos between Japan and Korea, and then I just coming over this country, cross the ocean. I didn't have anybody at that time. I have only passion, for become an opera singer, and then so all those things when you consider how brave I was, and then I met this incredible man. It's very rare. Most conservative, just he will die for love. He will die for love, Sora. We have this incredible love life, and then losing him was most difficult. I thought my life was over when he was passed, but then I raised another incredible human being. My son is 6'5".
Wow. Wow.
He was an accomplished classical pianist. He went to Washington and Lee Law School. He's a law scholar. And he was nationally ranking tennis player. He was so much to handle. I couldn't have a second child, Sora, but he was too much overwhelming in many ways. He started reading books in age 3 years old. From that, his scholastic the level was phenomenal, and I couldn't even stop and raising him go back to corporate world because he was a phenomenal individual, right? In many ways, so talented. He was a gifted pianist. He was a gifted scholar. Oh, not to mention, oh my gosh, his physical appearance is 6'5". 6'5",
Yeah.
And so all those years, I put myself raising this incredible individual. I thought my responsibility is raising this God-given incredible human being is my responsibility to do, not just going back to corporate world or my dream to pursuing become an opera singer. Sora. So I raising this son, and now he having this beautiful son, and it's just overwhelming. And my life I consider, I was born in Korea, but my life been nothing but in this country gave me a wonderful life. So all the things, I do not have any negativeness or things going on in this world. People should take a break, and just do one thing at a time. So Your question was the coronavirus, right?
Yes.
What was the main question? I have to go back. So the pandemic effects on my life, or what was it?
Yes.
So I can turn into this pandemic as a personal small gain, because my grandbaby was coming every single day. Otherwise, they could send him to daycare early age.
Right.
I wouldn't have. I have to driving over there because two parents. My son is a lawyer, and my daughter-in-law is handling the she has a big job in Memorial Hermann Hospital organization. So they both have to stay home and working. So I got to keep the corner with me in my place. So that was my personal blessing. Otherwise, so if you ask me, every life, every what is it? Thing has a plus and minus. If you how you look at it, you know, of course it's hard. My loved ones cannot go back to office and working and all that. But in my personal perspective, it has been blessing for me. But it's heartbroken. A lot of people dying and all that. But if you ask me how I adjust, and then I am blessed to spend happy time with my grandbaby, because I was sad to losing my husband 2015. I thought my life was over. But then my son got married 2017, and right after 2018, Connor was born and giving me a new life, new life in perspective and everything, And so life goes on, no matter what, life goes on. And that's how I can adjust that life never ends. Doesn't matter. One generation after another, life never ends. And you take the best out of, situation. So I am adjusted, and I feel for other people's pain. But of course, we have to careful with this virus. But if you ask me, my personal situation, been very positive under the sad circumstances.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess also, just to wrap up with it, because you mentioned, if you have any final comments or advice for the future generations and future audience that you want to leave as your legacy?
Yeah. So let's see. What I can say is that what I learned from this pandemic is that everyone should take a deep breath. What is the important thing in life? Not too much chasing your dreams, Of course, that's important. But what's most important thing is little thing. You enjoy each other. And this, I write it here. It will get things only better if we all take a deep breath and not too much pounding each other. Why this thing is happening, and I want to be a front of you and all that. But take a deep breath. What is the single important thing in life? Deep breath. And don't try to be front of others. Just support each other. That's the main thing. And also, blame games. People blame each other for you did this, I did this, and there is nothing good comes out from the blame games. So take a deep breath, take some responsibilities, and if you can, as much as you can, helping each other is what we need. Helping each other. And also, take time to think what's the most important thing in life. Sora, everyone should ask themselves.
Right.
I always ask young people, of course, study hard, work hard, but what is the single important thing in life? It's love. It's love for each other and be there for each other no matter what circumstances. And also don't try to emphasizing in mine is better than yours. It's not gonna work. And nationalism, right? We Koreans, I grew up in that environment. You know, as you can see, I married to Caucasian. A lot of my Korean, black, because I married to American men.
Right.
I'm sure, Sora, your parents are two different nationalities, especially Japanese and Koreans. They are the enemies. They are the enemies. And some Koreans, they never forgive. They never ever forgive Japanese what they did to our ancestors. But that's a past, right? That's a history. We have to embrace each other, and we nurturing each other, and we have to appreciate the differences. We cannot go back in time and live our lives. You know, that is what things happening in this country same way. So it's kind of in a way sad, right? We cannot go back and rewrite the history. History is there, but what we new generation can do, embrace each other and accepting each other. Even my family members, very short time ago, they denounce Nami as a family member because I married to American men. In Korean culture, now it's getting better. But in my generation, at least, it's not acceptable. Married to American man is a shame to family book. Sora, you know what I mean? And also, Korean man to marry to Japanese woman is a shame. Oh, that will be a more shame to our ancestors. What Japanese did to our ancestors is unforgivable sin they did. And all that's a part of a human history. We all have to accept it, and we have to embrace and let new generation doesn't have to go through that pain. You know what I mean? That's how I see it. So many, even my friends and my relatives, oh, Lami is too liberal. She could marry to a well-to-do Korean man with all her education and her everything, you know. But then she chose to marry to.
Hello? Yeah, I think I can hear you. The video is not on, but I can hear you, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, how to video? Zoom? Click the Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, what's going on?
Sorry about that.
The call came in and did that. How can block this call? Oh my gosh, my friends are calling. So anyway, what was it? We have to embrace each other, and we cannot go back to 100 years ago or 90 years ago it was happened. And still in my generation, family members, what Japanese did was wrong, of course, but that's everywhere, right? What German Nazi did was a terrible, horrible thing, but we only cannot, we cannot go back in time, but we have to look forward and new generations. Let teach them, let don't repeat those, horrible mistakes. We have to appreciate coexistence. That's what God's intention was, right? And so I always emphasize. But then, what I found is Sora very conservative with these ideas, and then they Koreans, especially, even my family members, the same way. I married to American man was just a horrible thing. It just almost crying, how dare, your background, and so but in personal perspective, we just a human being. Good is good and bad is bad, and not one race is good against another race. That's how I see it. And so we have to embrace each other. And when I because you have Japanese mom, Sora, so I have a story. My husband and I, because my background, classical music background, and also my husband was a local banker, he was supporting fine arts community very much over the years. We passionate, and we get involved, and we nurture the young musicians and so on. And then I met this Korean celloist in Houston Symphony, and he married to a Japanese woman, Yoko, most beautiful lady. And his family denounced him because he married to a Japanese woman. Love is love, so love is love. And so even his grandparents denounced him, we don't know you. And so it was a painful experience. And Yoko and my celloist friend had one son. They raised a beautiful, wonderful son. But anyway, long story short, my husband and I, we supporting Houston Symphony over the years. So we invite musicians in my house and have dinners and all that. And lovely people. Oh, Yoko was most lovely lady. And some of them accusing me, you are friend with Japanese, they Japanese kill our ancestors, slaughter, and I mean, we cannot go back to in time and angry with our life and have a revenge and other people, nothing to do with my life. It was in the history book, right? Somehow it affects my ancestors and my parents. Of course, they had a hard time. 35 years colony of Japan. You can imagine, Sora. And so I can understand their pain and sorrow went through at that time, right? But we cannot always go back in time and live and get angry with the beautiful lady because happened to be she is Japanese. Nothing to do. She didn't commit any crime, but happened to be her nationality is Japanese and I am Korean, and that I supposed to angry with her and denounce my friendship with her? No, it's not right. So I trying to understand, and I trying to explain to even my close family members, and they denounce me because I married to American man, right? So I am kind of unique person to expecting all these social issues over the years. I seen it, I lived through it. My family, even one of my brother-in-law even didn't want to talk to me because I married to American man, Sora. that kind of situation I was in. But finally, they realized how wonderful American Robert McCown was, how our life has been blessed because of the two different continents we met and having this wonderful son. And now history is more coming in, you know. And so what I'm saying is, Sora, you cannot go back to live in past. And right now, even now, what's going on in this world, Sora, think about it. The African Americans are very vengeable and very angry and what their ancestors went through, right? Those slave times. Just that we all have to put those things behind, and we have to cultivating new world for the new generation to be embracing each other, embracing each other's differences, not tearing apart because we are different. That's how I see it. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even this coronavirus, they are not finger pointings. Oh, Chinese brought this because they would like to kill, innocent people. I don't see it that way. If it's happening, then let's looking for a solution, not finger pointing each other. Let's helping each other. See, already vaccine is developing, right? It's a great sign. So if you are young generation, all I'm asking young generation, we are fading away. How long? I wish to live until 100 years. Right now, I'm over 70, but I don't feel like I'm over 70. I would like to live over 100 years. I would like to see my grandbabies. One is already 2.5, and one is on the way. Next month, in fact. Another boy will be arrive, and I am ever grateful and blessed. So here is the thing, Sora. It's God's intention. We are all different. Supposed to be. If we all same, what good will do, right? And we have a different culture, different taste, different ideas. Then we just come together and exchange and learn from each other. That makes this world unique place to live, But not all humans are thinking same way, and not all humans have a tender heart to sharing our differences, accepting differences, and all that. So I do a lot of volunteer works as well, and Shepherd School of Music. I love Rice University, and so whenever I meet young people, emphasizing instead you giving your own idea first. You're trying to learn from others first. Learn. What can I learn from you? Then, this is mine to share. Then I think a better world to live. And even this in coronavirus situation, a lot of finger pointings. But I am very grateful all these scientists that developed the vaccines very short time of the period, and world can be better. Not has to be better. Have to be better, right? And then you asked me what this coronavirus been affected personally, or what was the question? Main question. Because I'm passionate person.
No, it's okay. I think you answered it. I just asked about any advice for future generations, which you gave very, very beautiful advice. So thank you so much for that.
Do you understand?
Yes, yes.
When I talking to young generation, I am very passionate. I mean,
Mhm.
I have so much, and also when I was young, I had a big dream, and so that is the reason I came across the ocean and came here. I met this American man and just falling in love with. I was giving everything. I went through a lot. Family
Mhm.
members, doesn't accepting my whole life and all that, but raising wonderful son, and now I am a grandma and ever grateful. And,
Mhm.
and ever grateful to this new world, and ever grateful to I expand my ideas and my attitude to unknown world, and sure you should, and every human being should have a chance to do that,
Right.
but their choice. But I choose to do that as I am very grateful, and
Mhm.
I am very grateful to that I had my life with husband especially, and now my son is very successful lawyer, and incredibly accomplished individual, something I'm very proud of.
Mhm.
And this country this country gave me the wonderful life more than that I even ever expected or wanted.
Mhm.
That is the reason I am very grateful for America.
Mhm.
Hmm. And also another thing that here is question. I don't know you're gonna even during COVID situation,
Mhm.
Sora, that personally,
Mhm.
like I said, I've been very blessed because I kept my grandbaby. Otherwise,
Mhm.
my grandbaby would go to daycare center as
Right.
their parents' wishes, but because they cannot sending him to the daycare center, so I kept him through Monday through Friday,
Mhm.
5 days. So the personally has been a very blessing,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
just positive note. Of course,
Mhm.
what's going on in the world is very terrible situation, but personally,
Mhm.
personally, I actually gain a benefit from it because
Right.
otherwise I could have kept my precious grandbaby every day, And so, personal note for me wasn't bad, but now vaccine is developing. Everybody, get vaccinated, and pretty soon our life gonna be more normalized,
Mhm.
and as you are, student in and rise, more activities will be free, and then the more life will be more enjoyable. And I look into that. And also, where is the coronavirus thing? And then I have this couple of things. Then what is the next question, Flora? So, am I
Yeah.
talking too much or what?
No, 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 you're fine. I think, actually, I think we went through all the questions like right when you finished with the corona question. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all the questions that I wanted to ask you today.
Uh-huh. Okay. So, given everything that has been going on so far, what is your outlook in future in 2021?
Mhm.
Positive outlook.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should learn from this
Mhm.
crisis. Always support each other,
Mhm.
not tearing down. As long as we have a mind open-minded, sharing and accepting others' idea, then it's a better world to live. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is really come down to that simple kindness.
Mhm.
That's it. Simple kindness and appreciate each other being in this world, and don't try to emphasizing mine is better and mine is better, accepting others,
Mhm.
and then you compromise, ready to compromise your ideas and blended it for a better world. That is to me is build better future for now and better future for the next generation. That's
Right.
how
Right.
I see it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but there is a lot of things. And then last question: how do you think people should view the COVID crisis now that it seems to be coming to an end?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think
you
yeah,
summarize
mentioned.
my
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
think yeah. I think that's it. I think that's yeah all the questions that I have. But do you have any like last comment you'd like to make before I conclude this interview? Or did you
okay.
already
So
make your last comment?
let's see. A lot of questions. The what is the questions questionnaire that what is the end gave it to me
Mm-hmm.
pretty much there, but I'm coming to Houston. I questioned that. We discussed that, and what do you think? We haven't much discussed about Korea and Japanese, Koreans and Japanese relationship. You know how hostile it was.
Right.
Do you think we covered that? And I don't know, is it necessary or not? And
I mean, you mentioned like during college how it was, and then how it's still looking now, and then how you want people to be more accepting in the future. But if you would like to add anything, you definitely can. But yeah, I don't think we like skipped over anything, if that's what you're worried.
Yeah. Well, it was a harsh situation then, but that's the past, and we always cannot go back to live. We
Right.
have to look forward, right? So that's the main thing. Yeah, 35 years colony of Japan for our ancestors was a hard things that they went through. And as a proud Koreans, they consider themselves, they are the pure, what do you call it? Never mixed, pure, imperial, you know, that attitude. So it was hard for them too, and that is the reason they don't accept mixed marriages, mixed race marriages. Some Koreans still do it, even in these days. Sora, you know, I know your mom. Your dad probably had another story to tell you, and their love story is probably good as mine. And no one don't care. Who cares about all the cultural differences? As a human being, the one love you give your heart to one person, there is nothing greater than that. That from that you're creating another many millions love branches, and many people don't think that, and but what Japanese did almost centuries ago is we cannot go back in history and brought this open wound and then killing ourselves and all the hatreds and all that. We cannot do that, simply that. So one thing we can do is embrace it and set aside, and that was history book, and our ancestors went through a painful era, but what we new generation could do is embracing each other, love each other, and different cultures, learning from it, and we share our common goal as a human being and existing in this beautiful planet. That's what it is, right? Yeah. Right. So here is also a question asked me that what do you think, Sora, the Korean and Japanese relations stand these days? Because I left my country in 1977. It's been a long time ago. I haven't been there for a long time. First time I went there was 2002. Since I left 1977, because the reason some of my families rejected my marriage to American man, and I didn't want to visit my homeland with my American husband.
Mhm.
And so, in fact, my husband never been in Korea. And because I do not wish it to, people see with a shameful eye. I do not wish it to my husband to be he married to Korean girl married to American man, and in my generation at the time like that, the society see it, the mixed marriage is like a low class people. And so I never wanted, but my mom rather came in this country and accepted it, and all my families, immediate family, but some distant family relatives still don't understand, and like a big stain in their what do you call it, family tree, Nami married to American and have an American child, and she's so liberal and ouster, and feel like I am great sinner in my family history. You know what I mean? So due to that, but what I trying to say is we have to learn from each other, Sora. And also, you probably, your mom and your dad went through a little bit of those hostile, perhaps, even these days, I don't know. Because, like I said earlier, the musician who was a beautiful celloist, the Cello Kim, used to call him Cello Kim, he went through painful life. Then he became alcoholic because his father never accepting his marriage to a Japanese woman, Yoko, most beautiful, tender-hearted woman that I ever met. And they had a beautiful one son, a brilliant young man. And my heart is still hardened. But Yoko accepted it, the Cello Joe family's hostel, because her love was bigger than what anything else. They just love each other. Nothing you can do about that,
Right.
And but his stories, his two countries, the hostel, his stories, what Japanese did to Korean people was unimaginable sin, really was. And they slaughter, innocent people. But that's not only in Japanese, in many countries. Not this did it to the Jewish the same way, right? But we cannot go back in time and bring those wounds to your heart and then live a miserable life. We have to forgive, and we have to set aside the differences and move on. And new generation, teach them and teach. We should learn from the older generation's mistakes, right? And especially even my college year. Oh my gosh, Sora, you have no idea how hostile it was, because at that time Korean government and Japanese government trying to reconcile, but Japanese stole so many national treasure, and they really destroyed our soul, our ancestors' soul, those proud soul, and they trying to kill Korean people's deepest proud, the soul, they never can forgive that. And they stole everything from three different kingdoms. We Koreans are proud of that, but you cannot bring those all back. And so 1970, what year was it? I forgot the exact year. And 1976 was Korean government and Japanese government trying to reconcile. And before that, they have no relationship whatsoever, right? But then demonstration erupted. So many university students, innocent life has been, killed and unbelievable way. Okay. And so you think I did well? I
Yes.
did all the main points, and then what's the HAAA is accomplished with my interview? Yeah.
Mhm. Yes.